Neville Goddard Awakened Imagination, Chapter 4, The Pruning Shears of Revision. It's getting good. This is going to be good stuff right here. This is when I think Neville really switches gears wonderfully. The second man is the Lord from heaven. 1 Corinthians 15:47. Never will he say caterpillars. He'll say there's a lot of butterflies, as is to be on our cabbages, Prue. He won't say it's winter. He'll say summer's sleeping. And there's no bud little enough nor sad colored enough for Kester not to call on it the beginnings of the blow. Mary Webb, Precious Bain. The very first act of correction or cure is always revise. The very first act of correction or cure is always revise. One must start with oneself. Don't forget, me, myself, and I. It is one's attitude that must be changed. What we are, that only we can see. Emerson. It is a most healthy and productive exercise to daily relive the day as you wish you had lived it. Now listen to what he's saying right here. It is a most healthy and productive exercise to daily relive the day as you wish you had lived it, revising the scenes to make them conform to your ideals. It's enough to be able to realize that there is a large flexibility here, and one way that I learned it was through the Seth material. And this same image we've been using, God, all that is, I am, right here in the middle. And these are your self-concepts. We've been using it this way. But in the Seth material, these were also known as probable realities. This is a probable version of you doing what you're doing now. This is another probable version, So in one instant, in one moment, this is you in all these different lives. The one you're emotionally experiencing is the one you're in right here. You're calling that your current reality, current probable reality. This is the Seth version. In the Neville version, this is a self-concept. When Neville is saying you can revise the scenes of your day to conform to your ideals, what he's saying is exactly what in the Seth material would be. You could take this probable version of your reality today, and while you're falling asleep, reimagine it having gone this way over here. So what happens is you change probable versions of your day. And this happens where everything happens. Everything's happening here. So revision is so wonderful. And my decades in the Seth material, literally, I always had a fun suspicion, but never ran down this avenue with revision. I knew something was there because of the training in the Seth material about how you deal with the past. You bring it back to now all the time. Now, this moment point, this is where all your energy is, all your power is in the moment. And I had a sneaking suspicion about the past, and something's open there. Something was more for me to understand there. And until I got to Neville, did I not realize, did I finally wake up to this whole mind-bending concept that it is there exactly as I suspected. I just didn't have the words for it. And when you're falling asleep, and Neville's about to get into it, when he says revising the scenes to make them conform to your ideals, means even though you are in a self-concept, and this is the self-concept you want to be in, and you want to modify this one, and you're making that subconscious impression while you fall asleep to conform to the ideals, it doesn't even matter if it's the one you're trying to get to here. What matters is that whatever happens in your day, you can revise more in line with the way you hoped it had gone. Switching back over to the Seth concept, you would actually literally be changing probable realities. That's what's happening here too. The more you do anything in your near sleep state, you're changing this conscious awareness. You're changing the consciousness of you, of I am ultimately, but revision is very, very valid. So it definitely works with the changing of your self-concept, but you have multiple self-concepts. You literally are not just in the one you are in, a part of you is in every single one of these, because you're connected subconsciously to the same all consciousness network. I am all that is God. You're plugged in, and every other form of consciousness, every other version of you, every other self-concept that you will be or have been are all getting the same revision that you perform. So when you wake up the next day, you might not see the seam. You might not see the brand new car or the brand new house or the brand new relationship or the brand new health. You might not see it, but you don't see the seam of what you changed when you do revision. Revision changes the self-concept you are in for sure. But no one's going to do it for you. You might not see the seam, but it does happen. The self-concept does change. Revision is the most amazing thing. And if anything I can do to help you understand revision, I'm doing my best in this chapter, because this is by far one of the most important teachings of all of Neville's teachings. Okay. For instance, suppose today's mail brought disappointing news. Revise the letter. Mentally rewrite it and make it conform to the news you wish you had received. Then, in imagination, read the revised letter over and over again. This is the essence of revision, and revision results in repeal. The one requisite is to arouse your attention in a way and to such intensity that you become wholly absorbed in the revised action. You literally, it's like when you revise anytime, you can do it in the moment while you're awake with your eyes open, or you can do it while you're falling asleep about your day and events happen. And he might get into it in this chapter, but don't forget, you want to sin not, you want to get angry when it's time to get angry, but sin not. What that means is if something perturbs you during the day, someone pisses you off, get angry, let it out, let that emotion out. Communicate. Hey, no, F that. I don't like that, and I'm putting my foot down on this right now. Blah, 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 blah. You don't hold anger or expression of your own emotion in you. You let it out. But sin not means you don't go to bed with that anger. You can literally, while falling asleep at bedtime, revise that whole event. But it means definitely do not hold back your emotion when you feel like you need to express it. Be angry, but sin not. Be angry when it's necessary, but sin not means don't take it to your subconscious state while you're falling asleep. Go ahead and revise it. You don't even have to revise it, but at least you know that you have the complete control and flexibility to do with it anything you want. The one requisite is to arouse your attention in a way and to such intensity that you become wholly absorbed in the revised action. So you're now in the new action, the new letter. You revised the letter that came in the mail to the new version of the letter. Now you've reread that letter. You will experience an expansion and refinement of the senses by this imaginative exercise, and eventually achieve vision. But always remember that the ultimate purpose of this exercise is to create in you the Spirit of Jesus, which is continual forgiveness of sin. Revision is of greatest importance when the motive is to change oneself. When there is a sincere desire to be something different, when the longing is to awaken the ideal active spirit of forgiveness. Without imagination, man remains a being of sin. Man either goes forward to imagination or remains imprisoned in his senses. Imprisoned in your senses is being stuck right here in the one objective self-concept without moving forward with imagination, into imagination, and then objectifying what you imagine. You're being stuck in that loop where the world's filling in your subconscious and you're not even paying attention. The lights are on, but nobody is home. Man either goes forward to imagination or remains imprisoned in his senses. To go forward to imagination is to forgive. Forgiveness is the life of the imagination. The art of living is the art of forgiving. Forgiveness is, in fact, experiencing in imagination the revised version of the day. Experiencing in imagination what you wish you had experienced in the flesh. Every time one really forgives, that is, every time one relives the event as it should have been lived, one is born again. Not only is the art of imagining lovingly when you imagine for a friend who's going to be achieving a goal that they want, that they see for themselves, when you impress your subconscious for your friend to obtain this, you sacrifice this self, you become this self that believes in their new reality, they become and you become. Two selves were sacrificed here. Every time, in addition to that, as you know that exists, every time one really forgives, which is what we just said, that is, every time one relives the event as it should have been lived, one is born again. So this happens when you are also revising. You're revising an event of the day, a letter came in the mail, and you don't want that news in that letter. So you revise the letter in your imagination while you're going off to bed, and you now read the new version of the letter, and you read it again. If necessary, read it again. Then now you think of something else, then you come back and think about the letter. The first memory, the first idea that pops up first, that floats to the top, is your revised version. That is usually first and on the top layer. You'd have to dig to go to the other layer, the one you're pushing into the not important category, because you revised to the one you want it to be. Father, forgive them is not the plea that comes once a year, but the opportunity that comes every day. The idea of forgiving is a daily possibility, and if it is sincerely done, it will lift man to higher and higher levels of being. He will experience a daily Easter, and Easter is the idea of rising transformed. And that should be an almost continuous process. Freedom and forgiveness are indissolubly linked. Freedom and forgiveness. Not to forgive is to be at war with ourselves, for we are freed according to our capacity to forgive. Forgive and you shall be forgiven. Luke 6:37. Forgive not merely from a sense of duty or service, forgive because you want to. Thy ways are ways of pleasantness, and all thy paths are peace. Proverbs 3:17. You must take pleasure in revision. You can forgive others effectively only when you have a sincere desire to identify them with your ideal. With their ideal. You can forgive others effectively only when you have a sincere desire to identify them with their ideal. You have a sincere desire here to identify them with their sincere ideal. A sincere desire to identify them with their ideal. Duty has no momentum. Forgiveness is a matter of deliberately withdrawing attention from the unrevised day and giving it full strength and joyously to the revised day. What a sentence. Forgiveness is a matter of deliberately withdrawing attention from the unrevised day, which seems all run amok, and giving it full strength and joyously to the revised day. The version you want to have had experienced is now becoming real in your imagination as you're simply imagining it while you're lying there. This is the power of revision. It is crafting reality in real time. If a man begins to revise even a little of the vexations and troubles of the day, then he begins to work practically on himself. Practically speaking, he begins to work practically on himself. Even a little of the vexations and troubles. Every revision is a victory over himself and therefore a victory over his enemy. The enemy's in his own household. Isn't that right? A man's foes are those of his own household. Sorry. Matthew 10:36. No, I don't mean to try and take thunder. I didn't even look ahead. A man's foes are those of his own household, and his household is his state of mind. He changes his future as he revises his day. It's kind of fun when you begin, you've gone so far with Neville when you begin to think exactly like him, and that's what you want to do. So, in my experience, listening to his lectures over and over while I was on my road bike, riding to San Diego and whatnot, I listened to those lectures over and over and over. You can call me an AI version of Neville, not the phony, baloney, cheesy sounding AI, but I mean, I literally put it in so much that I start to think like him, and that's what you want. To become a scholar of any material, you want to do that. You want to cram it in there to the point where it's dang near fully memorized. Then you want to start thinking along those lines. And hopefully at this point in all this material, if you've gone to the beginning, from the beginning up to now, you're getting your ship turned in the direction of your desire, which is the goal of this. Now you're starting to think the same. You're starting to think like Neville. This is an important step. When man practices the art of forgiveness of revision, however factual the scene on which sight then rests, he revises it with his imagination and gazes on one never before witnessed. The magnitude of the change which any act of revision involves makes such change appear wholly improbable to the realist. The unimaginative man, but the radical changes in the fortunes of the prodigal were all produced by a change of heart. The battle man fights is fought out in his imagination. The man who does not revise the day has lost the vision of that life, into the likeness of which it is the true labor of the Spirit of Jesus to transform this life. The man who does not revise the day has lost the vision of that life. If the man who does not revise his day has lost the vision of that life. Remember, out here is constantly filling in the subconscious. The man who does not revise the day has lost the vision of that life, into the likeness of which it is the true labor of the Spirit of Jesus to transform his life. All things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, even so do ye to them, for this is the law. Matthew 7:12. Man, everywhere in Scripture is the information right at you. What a wonderful, wonderful quote. All things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, even so do ye to them, for this is the law. Men should do to you. You think it's me, myself, and I. You think it's them, but it's actually me, myself, and I. All things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, you're pointing at them. Even so do ye to them, for this is the law. Because when you point that finger, this is the reminder. Me, myself, and I is the reminder that it's you that did it. Matthew 7:12. Here is the way an artist friend forgave herself and was set free from pain, annoyance, and unfriendliness. Knowing that nothing but forgetfulness and forgiveness will bring us to new values, she cast herself upon her imagination and escaped from the prison of her senses. She writes, Thursday I taught all day in the art school. Only one small thing marred the day. Coming into my afternoon classroom, I discovered the janitor had left all the chairs on top of the desks after cleaning the floor. As I lifted a chair down, it slipped from my grasp and struck me a sharp blow on the instep of my right foot. I immediately examined my thoughts. This is somebody paying attention to her reactions. I immediately examined my thoughts and I found that I had criticized the man for not doing his job properly. How honest is that? Since he had lost his helper, I realized he probably felt he had done more than enough and it was an unwanted gift that had bounced and hit me on the foot. Right? There's the 3 fingers. Looking down at my foot, I saw both my skin and nylons were intact, so forgot the whole thing. That night, after I had been working intensely for about 3 hours on a drawing, I decided to make myself a cup of coffee. To my utter amazement, I couldn't manage my right foot at all, and it was giving out great bumps of pain. I hopped over to a chair and took off my slipper to look at it. The entire foot was a strange purplish pink, swollen, out of shape, and red hot. I tried walking on it and found that it just flapped. I had no control over it whatsoever. It looked like one of 2 things. Either I had cracked a bone when I dropped the chair on it, or something could be dislocated. No use speculating what it is, better get rid of it right away. So I began quietly, I became quiet, all ready to melt myself into light. To complete bewilderment, my imagination refused to cooperate. It just said no. This sort of thing often happens when I am painting. I just started to argue, why not? It just kept saying no. Finally, I gave up and said, you know I am in pain. I am trying hard not to be frightened, but you are the boss. What do you want to do? She asked of herself, of here. The answer, go to bed and review the day's events. So I said, all right, but let me tell you, if my foot isn't perfect by tomorrow morning, you have only yourself to blame. This is a self-dialogue happening here, okay? After arranging the bedclothes so they didn't touch my foot, I started to review the day. It was slow going as I had difficulty keeping my attention away from my foot. I went through the whole day, saw nothing to add to the chair incident. But when I reached the early evening, I found myself coming face to face with a man who for the past year has made a point of not speaking. The first time this happened, I thought he had grown deaf. I had known him since school days, but we had never done more than say hello and comment on the weather. Mutual friends assured me I had done nothing, that he had said he never liked me, and finally decided it was not worthwhile speaking. I had said hi, he hadn't answered. I found that I thought, poor guy, what a horrid state to be in. I shall do something about this ridiculous state of affairs. So in my imagination, I stopped right there, and redid the scene. I said hi. He answered hi and smiled. I now thought, good old Ed. I ran the scene over a couple times and went on to the next incident and finished up the day. Remember now, she's going through her day, running through the scenes, looking for something that might need revision. She found it, obviously, in a painful way, and then she redid it. She no longer believed that he was deaf. She sacrificed the person she was. She became this one who believed Ed was cheerful and communicative and a good old Ed. She got rid of this one. This one's dead and buried. She is now this one. Ed over here, who was sharply ignoring her because she was ignoring him, he became this one. She sacrificed herself, believing good old Ed. Angry Ed, who didn't want to be angry, partook of this same energy, this consciousness, this revision, and became this Ed. In her revision, this Ed became this Ed. Now what? Do we do my foot or the concert? She's continually thinking about her day. I had been melting and wrapping up a wonderful present of courage and success for a friend who was to make her debut the following day, and I had been looking forward to giving it to her tonight. My imagination sounded a little bit solemn as it said, let us do the concert. It will be more fun. But first, couldn't we just take my perfectly good imagination foot out of this physical one before we start? I pleaded, by all means. That done, I had a lovely time at the concert, and my friend got a tremendous ovation. By now, I was very, very sleepy and fell asleep doing my project. The next morning, as I was putting on my slipper, I suddenly had a quick memory, a memory picture of withdrawing a discolored and swollen foot from the same slipper. She had a memory picture that she had pulling her swollen and discolored foot from the same slipper. I took my foot out and looked at it. Remember, that was only a memory at this point. It was perfectly normal in every respect. There was a tiny pink spot on the instep where I remembered I had hit it with the chair. What a vivid dream that was, I thought, and dressed. While waiting for my coffee, I wandered over to my drafting table and saw that all my brushes were lying helter-skelter and unwashed. Whatever possessed you to leave your brushes like that? Don't you remember? It was because of your foot? So it hadn't been a dream after all, but a beautiful healing. She had won by the art of revision what she would never have won by force. When you're out here by force, trying to force things, it ain't gonna happen. No. She had won by the art of revision what she would have never won by force. In heaven, the only art of living is forgetting and forgiving, especially to the female. Blake. We should take our life not as it appears to be, but from the vision of this artist, from the vision of the world made perfect that is buried under all minds, buried and waiting for us to revise the day. We are led to believe a lie when we see with, not through, the eye. We are led to believe a lie when we see with, not through, the eye. Blake. A revision of the day and what she held to be so stubbornly real was no longer so to her, and like a dream had quietly faded away. You can revise the day to please yourself, and by experiencing in imagination, the revised speech and actions not only modify the trend of your life story, but turn all its discords into harmonies. The one who discovers the secret of revision cannot do otherwise than let himself be guided by love. Your effectiveness will increase with practice. Revision is the way by which right can find its appropriate might. Remember Ho'oponopono. Make right. It really literally sounds, when you interpret it, make right more right. Oponopono. Make right. Ho'opono. Make right. Ho'oponopono. Make right right. This is what revision is. Make right right. I love you. Thank you. That's Ho'oponopono. I love you is the ultimate fix-all. If you're going to revise and you do it with love, every revision will be exactly what it's necessary to be. Your effectiveness will increase with practice. Revision is the way by which right can find its appropriate might. Resist not evil, for all passionate conflicts result in an interchange of characteristics. To him that knoweth to do good and doeth it not, to him it is sin. James 4:17. You see how much responsibility is involved. I tell you. To know the truth, you must live the truth. And to live the truth, your inner actions must match the actions of your fulfilled desire. Expectancy and desire must become one. Your outer world is only actualized inner movement. Through ignorance of the law of revision, those who take to warfare are perpetually defeated. Only concepts that idealize depict the truth. Your ideal of man is his truest self. It is because I firmly believe that whatever is most profoundly imaginative is, in reality, most directly practical that I ask you to live imaginatively and to think into and to personally appropriate the transcendent saying, Christ in you, the hope of glory. Don't blame, only resolve. It is not man and the earth at their loveliest, but you, practicing the art of revision, make paradise. The evidence of this truth can lie only in your own experience of it. Try revising the day. It is to the pruning shears of revision that we owe our prime fruit. Oh my goodness. I personally believe this is probably one of the most important chapters of everything we've read so far. And I think, as Neville said before, if he said not one more word past the night he gave the lecture on this subject, this is not from the lecture, this is his book, but he has quite a few, handful at least, lectures about revision and the pruning shears of revision. And he even says in his own words, if he didn't say another word after teaching this one thing, he wouldn't have to say anything else, for his work was done here. Basically, I'm paraphrasing. And I truly believe that. In all of my studies, in all the different metaphysical subjects, in all the body of the Seth material, going through Ho'oponopono and arriving now at Neville, and even after my 3 years running of heavy hardcore study and practicing, I'm here to tell you, I don't think that there's anything more important. If you are going to stop and try anything in all this, I know we've talked about this 1,000 times, make the impression, see the expression. This is a little simpler to try. Just see something different that happened in your actual day. It at first can seem daunting to try and think of something, feel it, that you've never felt before. What does it feel like to have $1 million in my bank account? What does it feel like to be married in love and happily walking into the new house after the honeymoon in Hawaii? I don't know what that feels like. Or health. What is it to be healthy? I don't know. I've always been sick. Whatever that dilemma is, and that imagining and feeling is it can be like a hill to climb. But this is not so much like that challenge. That can be a challenge, but it can also be easy. It's up to you. But revision is relying on the way you see your day, having just lived it. You just went through the day. Somebody got a hold of you on the phone and you didn't like what they said. Somebody sent you a text, you didn't like what they said. Somebody in the email, somebody whatever. Something happened, but you would rather have gone another way. At the end of your day, you can absorb it and go, no problem, I'm going to revise that tonight. You can start stacking these things up, but first you have to try it. Let's just start at the beginning. We don't need to make a laundry list or a grocery list that fast. Let's just start at the beginning. Imagine your day. And as he said elsewhere too, I believe, just start looking at it in reverse order. Try and make it back to the beginning. Generalize the events. They don't have to be extreme detail. But find one that you didn't like the way it actually went. It could be anything. It could be someone cutting you off in traffic. It could be anything. Revise the event, whatever it is, into the way you see it having gone, because it's more pleasurable the way you'd want to see it have gone. See it have gone that way, do it once, replay it, go back to the beginning, replay it maybe once, 2, 3 times. Before you know it, the replayed memory is going to be the memory, because tomorrow you're going to think back, just like the teacher did about her foot. It's like, oh yeah, my brushes are a mess. It's crazy. What happened? Oh, I immediately wanted to go take care of my foot. See, she's a practicing imaginer. She's obviously someone who practices the material, because she left her art area in disarray and went to go deal with it, to go take responsibility and deal with it right now. You can tell she's that kind of person that was dealing with the responsibility of it in the moment. So take this to your sleep tonight. find something in your day that you don't like it for any reason. It could be small, it could be big. I say choose the small. Get the pump primed here. Get this practice going. Revise anything. Replay it. Watch the new memory form. Tomorrow, you'll look back. You'll see the new memory first. It works. Don't just take my word for it. What a wonderful chapter. Chapter 4, Awakened Imagination. Chapter 4, the Pruning Shears of Revision. First quote, the second man is the Lord from heaven. What we are, that only we can see. Emerson. That was 1 Corinthians 15:47. The second man is the Lord from heaven. Forgive and you shall be forgiven. Luke 6:37. Now that quote there, forgive means to imagine lovingly. That's what that means. Imagine lovingly for others. You will be imagined lovingly for. Forgive and you shall be forgiven. Wonderful quotes. A man's foes are those of his own household. Matthew 10:36. All things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, even so do ye to them, for this is the law. Matthew 7:12. Oh, I love this Blake quote also. In heaven, the only art of living is forgetting and forgiving, especially to the female. Blake. Here's another beautiful one by Blake. We are led to believe a lie when we see with, not through, the eye. Blake. And finally, James 4:17, to him that knoweth to do good and doeth it not, to him it is sin. Wonderful chapter. Oh my goodness. Just lay back and absorb that one. Try it tonight. Just put it to use. Be a doer. Try it. Any little thing. All right, we'll see you in the next chapter.